This morning I was fortunate enough to have coffee with a longtime friend of mine, Lance Key, and his wife, who were here for a convention downtown at the convention center. And Lance is not only a friend and a fellow colleague in education, but he's also a coffee lover like myself. And so he's been out on some trips to various places, and he brought me back um, some different coffees to try out. And today we're going to try one from a coffee shop called Vertical, Vertical. And it is called Blackjack. So it is roasted with Jack Daniels. And I'm really anxious to see what this tastes like. So we're going to make coffee today in real time and see what that's like. Now I'm going to use the setup that I use for camping rather than my Chemex. And one of the reasons for that is all of my coffee is back here. Is probably hiding from the camera, but it's back here in my grinder. And so I'm going to use my little hand grinder to get started. And I could weigh this. I typically use 25 to 30 grams of coffee, but in this grinder, let's just go this way. In this grinder, it pretty much only holds 25 to 30 grams. So once I get it filled up, I know that I have about the right amount of coffee. That's pretty simple. And so while the water is heating up over here, we're just going to go ahead and grind this. And you just keep grinding until the wheel turns freely and you don't hear any more coffee being ground. It's not for the faint of heart. And we're almost there. And there it is. Now, the coffee is actually down here now, in case you've never used a hand grinder. And I have toyed with the idea of just getting rid of the grinder entirely and just using this, but early in the morning, I'm really too lazy. Now, in my original coffee setup for camping, I had a spring-loaded filter holder, and I didn't like it. It always kind of set a little sideways. I was afraid it was going to fall off the cup. So I found this on Amazon, and it just folds out, and it will hold your coffee filter. I used this in the video I did up by the lake. I guess that was yesterday. And it worked beautifully. So I'm just going to put that in there. Clean myself up just a little bit. And coffee, the water's not quite hot enough, but I'm going to go ahead and wet the filter with it. Typically what you want to do with these bleached white filters is run some coffee through it to get whatever bleach flavor might be in there out. And then we'll just sort of pour this out. And then I can pour the coffee in. And now we're just waiting for the water. It's about 173 degrees. I have my water set at 210, just below boiling. According to people like James Hoffman and others, I think the ideal barista brewed coffee is 192 degrees, but I find that when I'm making the coffee, by the time the coffee is made, the coffee is cold. And so I would rather go ahead and have the water a lot hotter. And we're at least at 190 at the moment. And the first thing you want to do is what they say, bloom the coffee. It doesn't take much water. Typically, I am weighing this on a scale, and my water goes in 100 grams for the bloom. And once it's bloomed, then I put in another 150 grams to get it up to 250. And then I'll put in an additional 100 grams by the time I'm done. So it's 350 grams, which is about a cup of coffee. But that allows the time for the coffee grounds to sort of saturate and then reinvigorate and then saturate again. And okay. Now I'm just going to kind of eyeball some water here because I'm not measuring it. And this is what I did when I was camping. I just kind of eyeballed the water. And I know if I fill this up pretty much, I'm not going to overflow the cup. So we're going to leave it right there for a minute. Now I like all different kinds of coffee, but I particularly like sort of a medium to medium dark roast. I typically buy single origin coffees. They're not as uniform as a lot of the blends that you would get, for instance, at Starbucks. When you get a Starbucks Pike Place, they say that's a medium roast coffee, but it's a little dark. But they blend all kinds of beans together and everything to get it to taste exactly the same every time you order a cup of coffee. And that makes sense when you go to a coffee shop like Starbucks. You want to get the same thing everywhere you go. But when I'm at home, I don't want my coffee to taste exactly the same every time I buy a new thing of coffee. I want to try something different with every bag. And that's why I was excited about this Blackjack blend with just a hint of Jack Daniels. There is another one that he gave me back here from a shop called Split Bean, and it is Deadshot, and I think he said it was made with Maker's Mark. So another one I'm looking forward to try. And let's just see. Yeah, I got room for more water. Now, when I am doing the third pour, I like to get all of the grounds down off the side of the filter. And when I'm using my Chemex on the third pour, I typically stir it just a little bit to make sure that it's not a really thick sludge, so the water has plenty of room to go through it. And now it's just a waiting game for the water to get into the cup. Hopefully it won't take very long. I wanted to make this part of the video with no edits at all. So even if I screw up on the audio and I've got a lot of stuff in here I probably shouldn't say, you're going to hear it anyway. So let me say this while we're waiting on the water and you're not just watching me stand here. I am trying out a new light. It's actually my original aperture light. It's huge with a big softbox on it. And I think if you're watching this video in the kitchen, I think you will agree, at least I hope by the time I'm done, that the lighting looks so much better than anything I've done already. I've hesitated using this light simply because it is not cheap. But as we move on, I'm not going to care so much about not cheap as I am about making the best video possible. And so today, not only did I want to try this coffee, but I want to try this light. And then my goal is you will see, by the time I'm done, a lot of close-up shots and maybe some slow motion shots of all of this being put together. That will be a second cup of coffee that I will do after I've enjoyed this cup, and I will use my old coffee grounds for that. Just so you can kind of see other kinds of ways to edit this video. So I'm doing one long take for the audio and to show exactly how long this takes to make. Taking a long time to get that last little bit of water out of there. And then to show how you can overlay other things by the time it's done. So this is not only a video about coffee, it's a video about teaching how to make this video about coffee. And I think we're close enough. And so, it's not quite as much water in the cup as there would be if I'd measured it all out, but it smells good. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna like that. It is, it's different than the normal roast of coffee that I would normally buy because it's got that little bit of Jack Daniels over the top. Now, obviously there's no alcohol in this. It's there for flavoring, and I like it. So thank you, Lance. We'll see you next time. Okay, I'm not going to belabor the point because I've already kind of described this video while I was making the video. But I thought I would try a couple of things. First of all, the light. Let me show you what that looks like. I said it was an aperture light. It's not. It's a Godox, but it's an aperture softbox on it, and it's a 33-inch, 32-inch, something like that. It's pretty good size. It is the light setup that I bought way back during the COVID days when my mom and I were locked inside hotel rooms for nearly 9 months. While our house was being rebuilt after a tornado took out part of it. Wild days. And so I was trying to continue making videos in this hotel room, and I bought this light not realizing quite how big it was going to be. And it's the light that I've used for a long time before I bought this new setup that I'm using now. And it does a remarkable job of sort of overcoming the brightness of the light over me in the kitchen. And I'm going to have to go back to using this light, I think, when I do videos in the kitchen, because it does a much better job than the smaller light that I'm using on a day-to-day basis. Anyway, I've said all that to say I decided to make this video one long shot from beginning to end. And I knew it was going to be a little long because it takes a while for the water to heat up and it takes a while for the coffee to brew and whatever. But I wanted to do that and then go back and video other things, maybe in slow motion or close-up or whatever, so that I didn't have to interrupt the flow of the video while I was making it. Now, I could have cut it down. I could have edited the whole video down a little bit. I decided to just leave it as one long take. And so I wish that I had gotten a few more B-roll shots. I kind of stopped a little early. I got tired, I guess, whatever. But it was a little different way of creating the video. And it was mostly about seeing how the light was going to work in the kitchen. And I think the light worked pretty good. You can let me know what you think in the comments, and we will see you tomorrow.